Okay, so hi everyone, and welcome to the another episode of Startup Stories. And today I'm very pleased to have Nimrod Priell, who is the investor advisor and currently CEO at Cord. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Anton. Great to be here.
Perfect. So I guess let's jump right in. So Nimrod, can you tell us a little bit more about yourself first? So what is your background and when you got into the whole startup
Yeah,
community and sphere?
absolutely. Look, I like to be humbler than this might come across, but it's inevitable that I have to kind of show off why this is interesting to listen to. Why might I have some good advice for people? So, apologize in advance if this seems like me tooting my own horn too much. But I started in tech 20 years ago in an Israeli military unit where if people listening in have ran into Israelis in tech, a lot of them started in that kind of military unit where a lot of the companies in Israel started from. And I then left. I did my master's in math at NYU in New York, and I worked at a few startups that failed. But I got lucky on the third startup that I joined, where kind of joined pretty early on, just as they were raising their Series A, and that was a Series A from Sequoia, and that company got acquired by Facebook in 2013, so 10 years ago, and the acquisition had a few reasons. Some of it was strategic, and some of it was sort of to build an office around that team in Tel Aviv. It was the first Tel Aviv office for Facebook, and that meant that the founders were very quickly moved off to like bigger and better teams at Facebook, and they're there to this day. But I was asked to kind of keep running the original sort of subsidiary, the product that was acquired. We had a few million users in the App Store and the Play Store, and I got to do both the kind of PMing of an app, of a B2C app, and marketing, and working with the team to build it, as well as we built an internal service based off of what this app was helping Facebook achieve, that was used by thousands of people internally, including a lot of the leadership and PMs and so on, and worked with M&A at Facebook on some of the critical acquisitions there. So it was a very interesting journey, sort of in some ways, really where my career took off. And I spent 5.5 years there as a PM and also running a data science team at the same time. And then I left in 2018. I started advising friends of mine from that Israeli military unit that had companies that had formidable success. And back in 2018, people who are in product today might kind of know there's a lot of great insights and great info about how to properly do product in tech, how to choose your KPIs, run product teams, manage product people. All of that is out there today from communities like Reforge, Lenny Rachivsky's blog. In Twitter, there's a lot of knowledge. There's other podcasts, books, blogs about it. But that, if you go back to 2018, none of that existed. Like all of these started in 2019, 2020. And I think there was this magic moment in product that sort of the whole community of product managers kind of coalesced and started teaching each other in the way that software engineers and marketers have done for a decade or more. But that didn't exist. And so in 2018, it was still fairly rarefied. And I had experienced the playbook of how Facebook ran product and kind of learned a lot from that and picked up all the best tips. And I told my friends who had these startups, look, if you have a team of a few PMs and they were scaling from like 3 PMs to 20 PMs, I can maybe help them a little bit with some of the best practices. And so I did it with a company called Snyk, SNYK, in London. It's pretty successful with another company that is called Riskified, went on to be public, not traded in NASDAQ, and another company that's in Martech that's also doing very well in the like 9-figure valuation. But I or maybe they passed that. I'm not sure. But it's not through me. I don't claim any credit for these successes, but I definitely learned a lot and saw a lot of different things than what I was kind of used to from Facebook, which is very much a B2C business, and or at least the size that I was exposed to. And then I took all of these learnings and I started Cord. Started actually kind of doing user interviews and working with my co-founder in 2019, end of 2019. And then we raised proper in 2020, just after the pandemic started. And there was this like massive flurry where people were trying to understand whether it's going to be a positive market shock or a negative market shock. And turned out it was positive for some and negative for others, and kind of raised at that time. And that's that's what I'm doing now.
Yeah, that's a great story. So you in the beginning you mentioned that you were like lucky to get like to the startup that was acquired by Facebook, and this is probably kind of one of the very big turns in the way like your career and your life changed. But do you think it is actually luck, or like some of your decisions kind of helped this like to happen?
Yeah, I come from math, and so in math we have this term. There's necessary conditions and sufficient conditions. So sufficient conditions make something happen. Necessary conditions, they don't make it happen. If they don't exist, it can't happen, right? But they're just like it sounds in this. And I think making good choices, working hard, kind of all of these great traits that we can control, that we can learn, they're necessary conditions, but they're not sufficient conditions for success. I know amazing people who were amazing for 20 years and nothing happened, and then they got lucky, and then it happened. The founder of Riskified, the CTO, was a good friend. I worked with him in 2 startups. They both failed. He was already 10 years older than I. I was always looking at him and saying, telling myself like, oh, it's kind of, why keep betting on startups? Why not join a big corporate? They keep, sure, it's a different environment, and he enjoys the startup life and he enjoyed it a lot. But like, surely after 7 times that you worked at startups and they all went pretty much to zero, you would like learn the message. And no, and he kept doing it, and then he started his own startup, and that turned out to be a multi-billion-dollar exit and IPO, or not even exit, but IPO. They're still in the business doing amazingly well, and they're a great team, and it's remarkable. But like, I don't think that Asaf in 2016 was significantly different to Asaf in 2008. You just keep playing at the table, and if you do it right, and that's Annie Duke writes about it in Thinking in Bets really well. Like if you have all the right processes, can't guarantee success, but if you keep then betting and you do have the right processes, then eventually success will come. And I think I think I got lucky. I was interviewing with a lot of startups, and I had, had a good network and a good career, and I was spoiled for choice. I could get a lot of opportunities, and there were 2 that were exciting to me. And I ended up choosing the one I chose, not because I was smarter or I knew what's going to happen. I ended up choosing it because it was closer to where I lived, and I liked the commute more. I could cycle to work every day. And altogether, the offers were similar. The startups were both interesting. Team looked great. The other one went to zero. Was a total disaster. This one was acquired by Facebook and changed my career. So, I think there is more luck than we like to admit, because it's hard to accept that. I don't think, everyone who succeeded is fundamentally better as a human being. I don't think, Elon or Steve Jobs or whatever, not that I know them personally, but my philosophy and perspective on life is there are many, Elons and Steve Jobs and even better people than them, and then there's like timing and luck
Hmm.
and once it propels you, there's definite momentum effect, right? I'm definitely more successful because I've already had that prestige and these levers and this network, and I invested and some of the investments went well, and now I'm like, all that helps me without me being a better person. Or so
I
yeah.
see. But you still need math to be on kind of on your side. I see.
Yeah, you need luck to be on your side. You don't have to know math to have luck.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
So you also mentioned that like yeah, the whole Facebook story is amazing. By the way, like did it like I don't know, how did like the Facebook influence you like personally? Was it like a completely different environment from like where it came from? Did you like need to change a lot from like how you behave, what you do, and how you look at things when you can join Facebook?
Yes, 100%. It was, look, I never worked at corporate. And also, like Israel is a tiny country with companies that um, I always find it funny when I hear Americans or even some European countries, they would say, oh, it's a small company, 200 people.
Mm-hmm.
And like for me, 200 people in Israel, the way you would describe a 200 people person company is like, oh, that's huge. That's late stage. It was just a country of startups. There were almost no, there were like two kind of known employers. There was like Intel and like Microsoft that had offices in Israel, and like Google started at some point, but like Facebook didn't have an office in Israel. A lot of the other big multinationals didn't have offices in Israel, and it was mostly like homegrown companies. And the biggest homegrown companies were 500 people, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think I had to learn that. I had to learn American corporate, but not in the bad sense that it's someone's for people. There's so many fundamental skills that I didn't have that um, corporates do well. I don't think they're the right skills for startups. I actually had to forget and like relearn startup 3 years, when I left like in Cord. Um, and that's a challenge that we have with people who only came from big companies. It is just a different beast. Both are, skill sets that are beneficial to have. I had to learn a ton. And I think part of the key thing is to keep yourself moldable, to keep yourself adjustable. Like maybe one of the pieces of luck or readiness that I had was that we were acquired. I was let's think, 2013. I was 29, right? 30, turning 30. I was still very moldable. I was eager to learn. I was looking at myself as like, oh, there's a lot here that. And I think part of the danger is when you get fixed, when you get fixed in your ways, fixed in your thinking. This is how things work. This is how things should work. And I think that kind of openness to see that there's other ways of working, there's other ways of doing things. That I think is very, very important if you want that luck to happen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I see that. Well, that is interesting, but I guess is like pretty much expected. Like that the two cultures are very different, and it's hard to match them. But still, for example, like you said that like after you left Facebook, you started consulting and advising like to companies like that are early and growth stage through like how to like take your experience that like came from Facebook and how to apply that to the companies that want to get like at least closer to there. Maybe you do not want to be a tech giant, but want to get there. So and you mentioned that you did it, but maybe some kind of advice or general like what did you do to those companies? Like what is the general problems that those companies are facing, and how do you approach solving those?
Yeah, so what I try to do is work with the product teams. The best example of this is my work with Riskified, probably, because in each of them there were slightly different projects. But basically, the message I came with was a series of tips and tricks. Today they're a bit more obvious again, so the PM community is consolidated around them on how to, what is the role of product, how does a good organization look like, and how to kind of scale the product team. And it's hard to go into it in 5 minutes. But the key insight there, which again, like I just today is, everyone talks about it, hard to remember how it looked like 5-6 years ago, is to have KPIs for that all kind of connect to the North Star and the KPI for the entire company. Some companies go into deep kind of soul searches and to find this North Star. I often think revenue is a really decent North Star for most B2B companies. But how the revenue breaks down is different because it depends on your business model. And then you can have PM teams working on onboarding and on retention and so on. And making these, there's a few tricks, very tactical, how to run your kind of weekly team meeting, what do you need to see, how to run experiments and so on, and how to plan and roadmap and so on, that all tie to this visibility into the KPIs and to motivating and creating ownership in the engineering team of the KPIs. Mm-hmm. And that focus on, we called it in Facebook, focus on impact. An engineer is expected to know how what they will do will contribute to the KPIs and how much it really did contribute to the KPIs. And it sounds so trivial, but the reality of many startups, even today, even when it's all known, is that engineers are given stories, given user stories, if not given PRDs and specifications of features to build by the product manager. And then when you have something like that, there's many examples, I cite them in my talks, where just like A, they run slower, they're demotivated. B, oftentimes just don't understand the actual kind of a full picture of what needs to be done, and they miss out the details. A, you're missing out on their solution kind of ability and ideas, but they often miss out the details because you just don't see the big picture because we're not helping them see the big picture. And then it's often like filled with bugs and so on. It creates all kinds of frustrations, and the engineers churn out because they feel like they're just being given work that's already decided, and then it changes. They don't understand the reason to change. And if you kind of co-opt everyone in this like search for reaching that KPI, and there's again sort of tricks, concrete tricks on how to do it, then everyone's just together kind of internalizing that they're here to move the needle on percent of users adopting a certain features, or percent of users going through the sign-up flow, or percent of users churning, or whatever, or transaction volume, or transaction value. And they're just like constantly in that world, living and dying on the success of that metric and these experiments. And so they ship faster and they care more about the result, they understand the result and the whole org. And it's a very natural way to kind of divide the org. So some people mistake this for OKRs. I actually think OKRs, which is the Google system, is just a wrong system, wrong incentives, set up wrong, used incorrectly in practice. So I don't believe in OKRs, I believe in team KPIs. It's a different setup. And there's a lot of nuance in how to do that well. But when you execute it well, I still stand by this approach for scaling B2B startups. I learned that it doesn't work for 0 to 1, for pre-PMF startups, but for scaling B2B startups, it works.
Yeah, but it also I guess the team that you work with, it needs to be pretty good and pretty talented group of people to really like understand everything and think about their decisions and drive it and everything. That's why I was thinking about, yeah, like early stage startups. Not like not everyone knows them that this is a good choice of engineers, or even like if you're like saving money for like doing the MVP, maybe you're not kind of in a place like to hire like really great people that can think with you, not for like for you to think for them.
Yeah, I agree. I think one of the hardest things is finding great talent, and it's harder to find great talent outside of your expertise. So a lot of the founders that I worked with that are not technical and didn't start a kind of didn't have a technical CTO on the team or whatever, one of the first things they want my help with is how to find great tech talent. I happen to be, again, have been an engineer for over 10 years. I've worked with engineers all my life, kind of interviewed thousands of people. Because at Facebook, I interviewed almost 1,000 people, and then the military unit I was in, I interviewed almost 1,000 people, and then over all the other. So it's literally a few thousand people, I think maybe 2,000 that I've interviewed in my life, mostly for engineering roles. And that does, I still make mistakes all the time, and I'm not perfect, but I do see the difference, a marked difference between people who've never interviewed, right, or never interviewed engineers, and how to find that talent. And it's not about, well, it's not just about their algorithmic skills, right? It's
Yes.
very often not that. Or how much they know a specific language. It's very often not that. And so, yeah, that's a very challenging piece of that, for sure.
Mm-hmm. And how did you approach like hiring for Cord itself? So
Well,
did you hire like the core team? Like you really invested into like the like yeah like onboarding your like own high level like developers? Did you find someone that could just help you like do the initial work and then think about like what to do further? Or what was your approach?
yeah, so we're very lucky in that we came with a network. My co-founder is even more of a kind of successful engineer than I ever was. He was an early Facebook engineer. He comes with a rich network of Facebook engineers that he's kind of knows well, fostered relationships with months. They love him, or sorry, for years they love him, and within months we could hire a lot of them into the company. So we were lucky in that respect, but it doesn't solve the whole problem, because actually, both in a startup and a big company, you don't want just senior engineers. Um, it's problematic. Like, it's, they don't always all subscribe to doing all the kinds of tasks. They have sometimes they over engineer stuff. Sometimes it's capitally not very efficient to just have senior ex Googlers. So you actually want to build, have people who are senior experienced and have them be good mentors to very good coachable junior engineers. And actually finding senior engineers is hard because they're rare and they can have their choice of work, and but finding juniors with high potential is sometimes harder. And I think that's the thing that we really unlocked and really cracked and did very well. We would go through a lot of engineering boot camps and interview the candidates there. And, in terms of knowledge, they all know the same. They know what they learned in the boot camp. But in terms of potential, there are wide differences between the ones who are incredibly professional, incredibly coachable, incredibly motivated, and just kind of started their career with something that wasn't a fit, or they didn't end up liking, and they wanted to change from after 5 years. I don't know, it could be, we have great engineers who were worked in insurance or worked in architecture or whatever, and when they turned into engineering, they were remarkable, versus other people who go to boot camps and I don't, maybe we're wrong, maybe it's not a fit for our company, maybe they'll change, or maybe there's some gaps there that are more fundamental in terms of their capability to actually grow quickly into engineers that can own features and own KPIs by themselves.
I see. Yeah. Well, that's pretty much the picture that we have as like we also like hire pretty much our like entire team is mostly engineers and our job like to hire engineers that can build startups and like help us our clients. So yeah, that is like very true. So we mentioned Cord already a few times already. Let's talk about the product itself. So what is Cord? How does it work? And what's the idea behind it?
Sure. So Chord's an SDK or an API. So you put it into your engineers are coding with Chord into your product, which is why I think we're a company focused on engineering. We're building for other engineers, and specifically what Chord does is add collaboration and in-app communication. So all the features you know and love from products like Figma, where you can leave comments everywhere and see who's on the
Yeah.
kind of document with you, or Google Docs and Notion are examples. You can build into your product with Chord. We have clients like Monday.com, Bill, which is a public company in the sort of finance management space, and some of their products integrate our commenting functionality. ThoughtSpot, loads of other sort of tools, big and small, and very, we have a crypto, kind of some crypto product. We have like all kinds of very specialized products. And when they need, they want to kind of have the benefit of their users being able to communicate in the product, which helps with seat expansion and engagement and retention, and helps all of these KPIs that PMs are looking after. And you want to add it in a really high quality way, really native to the app and customized with like notifications going into Slack and email and so on inside your product. But you want to do it fast. Usually it could be a project that takes a company. Figma took a few years to build their in-app collaboration to the level that it is today. Even if you want something more MVP, it's easily like a 6-month undertaking of a few engineers, back-end, front-end, designer, PM. It's a defocus from your specific kind of core capability and benefit of your app. So Chord is what you go to do that.
And so how like did you start like what was the MVP for Cord, or what did you like really start with? How do you do this with the like this thing is so focused on engineers and needs to provide like a very specific like set of functionality. How do you MVP it, and how do you kind of start like find your users basically?
Yeah, so I think there were 3 stages for Chord. One was validation. We wanted to even see that this is interesting, it's working. You can add collaboration to other tools, and you can't start with a deal with a big company that has lots of users, because they haven't seen proof that this is working, or you have to be really like lucky to find the company willing to do it with you and so on, if you don't have the technology or anything. So the way we actually started was by building a Chrome extension that gave this functionality in a simplistic way in a lot of different tools that people use. HubSpot, all kinds of BI tools, Heap. I can't even remember the list. We had hundreds of tools that we supported back then. And we would give it for free and use it for user interviews, or try to promote it and find where people naturally gravitated to it and stuff like that. And one of the tools we supported was Retool, and Retool blogged about us. You get collaboration inside Retool using this Chrome extension kind of thing. And one of the people who saw this was a dev rel at Typeform, and he reached out and said, hey, like Typeform is working on commenting inside Typeform, maybe you guys should talk, can you embed this? And this is proved to us, this was the proof for Typeform and for us, that we could do and move to the second stage. Second stage was, Typeform was the first example of this. There were many clients after, but it was still kind of one type of collaboration. It was the collaboration sidebar. So the collaboration sidebar is like it sounds. It's a sidebar. It's you can customize the colors and the fonts and stuff like that, but it still is almost like intercom. Always comes up from the side, pushes the screen to the left-hand side, and on the right-hand side you have the chats and the comments and so on about this page, and that doesn't actually work well enough for a lot of applications in practice. It's quite limiting. If you imagine a video editing application or a canvas, like a whiteboard, kind of digital whiteboard kind of product, you want the comments to float in there. You want a different modality, and that's the fancy design term for kind of type of interaction there. And so we shifted. That was the phase 3. The phase that we're in now is a fully customizable SDK where you have these components. They combine to make bigger chunks, bigger components. So you can start with either something that's quite kind of fully fleshed out. You can customize it with CSS and so on. You can stick it anywhere you want on the page, but it's like containing already a lot of the functionality of commenting with typing indicators and resolving and editing and deleting and so on. But you can also, each of these comes like a Russian doll, you can like deconstruct it, get the smaller pieces, change something, and then and it's all very, very customizable, flexible SDK. So we can be in all these kinds of different apps. So that's sort of the kind of phases of development of that technology. And by now it's like, it's running on this like momentum where it's like it's proven. There's all these successful clients where like 70% of their weekly active users are commenting actively every week, and we're in different applications and big logos and whatever. So it's, there's still a lot of work both on the core product. We're improving a bunch of stuff that clients wanted, and we have a lot of work on just GTM, right, like awareness and so on. And but it generally is like, okay, it's a proven product that works, and we need to just scale out the business.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I see. So like you want to be in a position like when, for example, like when we're, I don't know, doing like a prototype or estimating like a product, and it has like chat or a payment system or whatever. We don't even ever think that we will build it from scratch, because like that makes zero sense. You can incorporate a lot of products, and you want to be that in the collaboration sphere. That is very interesting.
That's exactly it. I think 10, 15 years ago, everyone built their own login.
Yeah.
And now no engineer builds their own login. It's all like you use Auth0 or one of the other alternative. But pretty much it's like, of course, and why wouldn't you? And same with checkout, right? You go to Stripe or, again, one of the alternatives. We want to establish and kind of educate people that there is a solution, because people just don't know. They build in-house, but there is a solution that's the Auth0 for commenting and collaboration, in-app collaboration notification, and it's scored.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but it's still like a team needs to be quite like flexible. I know, like in my history, a lot of engineers, they like, no, guys, like I will build it. We need to build it like from scratch. It will take 4 months, and like guys, we can integrate that, like, and it will be working in a week.
Yes.
Yeah, it's also probably not also engineers, but I don't know how to educate like also like product people needs to know about that.
Yeah.
That is interesting. So, and like when we were reading about Cord, and probably that is kind of, maybe I think it is part of what we've discussed about like the product-led approach and growth and team-led. So this is what we were talking about like building the like kind of awareness and decision making from your team, from the very ground. This is what you are trying to do at Cord.
Yeah, I think, you mentioned build versus buy. That is one of the classic sort of conversations that we're in. We usually, we rarely lose kind of on a build versus buy discussion, but the fact that it's even there, or that they didn't even know, they happened to know about us when they were like halfway into the building or whatever, that shows exactly that problem and exactly that bias. Like software companies have engineers, so they think they need to build everything, and unless the engineers are already immersed and informed in this world where this is the software supply chain. You like BMW doesn't build its own car doors. There's a car door factory that they have a relationship with that builds the car doors for BMW and also for some other car brands. I don't know exactly which ones, but like there's a supply chain. They are the ones that end up putting the car together and marketing it and pricing it and so on. But like the components come from many different suppliers that specialize in their bit, and we specialize in the infrastructure and the product experience and the kind of range of suite of capabilities of making products multiplayer. It doesn't have to be real-time multiplayer like live cursors and all that flashy stuff. Even just the fact that you can see who's on the page, who was on the page before, comment, have a chat, leave these contextual things that are related to the data inside the app and are attached to like a chart or a visual or whatever. That's our expertise, and that takes educating the market for sure.
And you brought an interesting kind of example with the cars. That makes a lot of sense. But I guess like not so long ago, I think it was like the interview with Ford, where he told that it has obviously like this is like supply chain advantage. They know like, and they have competition in like who would supply them. But at the same time, I think like the idea was that it's very hard at some point to make reasonable changes and innovation because you are so tied to 200 suppliers that are giving you parts that to change something you need to agree with like or make changes in a lot of systems that are not yours anymore, so you are kind of limited in that fashion.
Yeah, I think it's a smart point. I think often these things they're true, like in everything there's a trade-off and it like kind of depends on the specifics of where you are. I think what we found is that very early stage startups just want to go fast to market and they have a core proposition that they want to test out, but you can't test out something when we call it serving burnt pizza. If you're trying to test whether people like pizza with aubergines and pineapples on it, if you serve burnt pizza, if it's crappy, then you don't learn that they don't like pizza with aubergine and pineapple. You just learn that they don't like crappy pizza. And this is what happens when you build an MVP that is so minimal that it's actually not exciting enough and not kind of doesn't work well enough. And so there is a shift between how apps were built 20 years ago or SaaS was built 10 years ago. And a lot of people today in the PM community talk about minimum lovable product and not minimum viable, because it has to be lovable and you don't love something that looks like crap. And so there is something about that minimum quality. So if you want to get to a high quality product, this is why you do auth 0. You don't roll out your own login. Well, guess what? Your own login will suck because there's so many details in a good login system that you don't consider now. And people want to use their Google suite, and they want to use other login methods, and they want to have a recovery that feels safe and secure and whatever. And like you just get it out of the box with auth 0. And I think in the same way, not plugging auth 0 here, by the way, there's many alternatives, but like same way you want a minimum lovable kind of commenting experience, and maybe that's even more important because it's a key part of how the experience of the app is. So we find that with early stage. With late stage, we find the late stage are the best clients because they start to think in ROI, and they think, I have a core business capability. I'm a fraud analytics SaaS tool. I'm a billing system, whatever I am, procurement system. I don't know, video editor. My business is not spending. I can use my engineers and designers and PMs for something else than, communication, which someone has already solved in the best way. So I get the flexibility point. There's a counterpoint, and where you are in that kind of trade-off, what are you trying to pull off that you're losing? I don't know, uh, you know, where everyone is on the journey. I'm sure there are startups for which we're not a fit, and it's better to build yourself.
Hmm. I see. Yeah. So you need to find your balance based on pretty much what you want to do. There's not no clear answer
Yeah,
on.
like I could argue with you that with the car analogy, it only goes so far because yeah, the problem of the car industry is very much that there's very little to innovate on. It's changing a little bit of the shape and the interface, but basically it's a highly regulated, highly standardized thing that's like for 100 years, all it is boxes with wheels. Um, but for the software industry, there's an explosion. There's tens of thousands of different SaaS tools. There's a SaaS tool for helping with viral marketing on TikTok, and there's a SaaS tool for procurement. There's a SaaS. So there is a lot of, software is flexible. There is a lot of specialization. There is a lot of different core focuses, and you want to build this with like best in class components, and the components and the infrastructure here for the stuff that's ancillary, that's like not your main quest, it's a side quest, like
Mhm.
communication. You want it to just be plugged in, working well. You don't need to rebuild it.
Yeah, that's
That's the
fair. But
argument.
yeah, once again, like for the cars, I think like the cars, as everything else, are moving more and more towards it's not just the car, it's the software you're running in it, what can it do, how it can help you, and so on. As that and
Exactly.
that is like hard to do. I was trying to like select a car for myself. That is a pretty like quest right now to like make a correct choice and like electric or like old-fashioned engines and what to do, how they're different and so on.
It's a
Uh,
period of innovation. Fair enough. I should have premised that I'm actually the worst person to talk about cars. I don't drive a car. Like the last 15 years, I've been riding a bicycle.
yeah,
So I
last
feel
year.
like,
I
yeah,
see. Probably one of the last like the long questions. So the AI hype and pretty much every company possible is like incorporating AI in one or another form. What do you think about it? Does like Cord have like AI capabilities? How do you approach this as a company? And what do you think about like the kind of AI in general right now?
yeah. Big topic. Of course, we have to talk about it. We don't have AI capabilities. We try to find where do we naturally fit in
Mhm.
this, not where can I wedge this unnaturally to ride some kind of hype wave. And one area that is honestly very natural did emerge, which is if you are building AI capabilities in your app, well, these AI capabilities, they start with a user typing a message to a bot and the bot doing something and responding. Is the whole innovation of this latest wave of LLMs and AI revolution is that I start with a free text prompt and I get a smart answer back. And that, what I just described, is chat and commenting. And so what we say is you need an interface to have the people speak to the bot and the bot and that interface you need typing indicators. You need to notify people because the time it takes these AI systems to kind of compute and bring back an answer could be seconds, sometimes minutes. If you're talking about things like Discord with their kind of not Discord, sorry, Midjourney that's on Discord
Yeah.
with their image generation, it takes a few minutes. So people move off. They command tab into a different screen. They go and have a coffee, and you need to notify them, and that's another area. So we do all of that drudgery, right? It's not rocket science. It's not something special, but we have demos. If you go to core.com/AI, we hooked our interface into ChatGPT, and you can see how does it feel with a really rich chat interface where
Mm.
the kind of bot has a typing interface. It tells you it's thinking, it notifies you, it can format its responses, you can react, you can edit, delete messages, reply. You can have multiple people talking to an AI bot, not mentioning them. and we have capabilities for the AI bot to kind of interface with the rest of your app, because unlike many other chat solutions, ours is contextual. There is a connection between the page you're actually on and the other DOM elements in the page and the context of the comments, and you can embed things in the response from the bot and so on. So we have a few clients that are building their bots and the chat interfaces with Cord. So that's where we plug into this whole story.
Yeah, I was just going to mention that. I think like the power of like integrated AI into product is coming from context, because like other than that, like I can just open like ChatGPT 4 window and yeah, type there. I need to have a value because of like typing it inside like this product. Uh,
100%.
yeah, Nimrod, probably like you mentioned a few blitz questions that are just very, very quick answers. What's one book that you like the most or have impacted you the most?
Oh my goodness, that is such a hard one. For a quick one, there's so many.
What comes to mind?
But what comes to mind, I guess, there's a book called The Better Angels of Our Nature. That's Steven Pinker. It's a very long, big book about the history of the world, and the principal idea is that we're a lot of what we see in the news and what we're concentrated on is a lot of negativity. There's very bad things going on in this world with the war in Ukraine, the trends to like local kind of more violent, more polarized opinions, stuff like that. And what Steven Pinker shows is that over the course of history, if you look at the macro, this is a small blip. It's small, and the overall trend is positive. And the worst of what happens today is still more positive than what happened not 500 years ago, but even like 50 years ago. Like we are moving towards a society that is more just, equal, and less violent, and that trend it's a very optimistic, but based in actual fact and not just spreading feel good
I probably
opinions.
yeah need to check it out, because
It's
like
a great
after
book.
COVID, I myself have an impression that like the world is going crazy like year by year. What's happening? What is your favorite startup group or community?
Ooh, also a hard one. There's all kinds of ones. I really like, I actually appreciate some that I am part of that are not public, that are WhatsApp groups, that just, bunch of founders on WhatsApp, where it's the most open and least markety that I know. But I guess one of the other ones that comes to mind that I've been on and off participating in, and I just think is great, is Lenny Rachivsky's Slack and PM sort of blog. It has become a bit more markety. It has become a bit more polarized in the opinion, but there's a core there of people who are just very, very frank and honest and share their real day-to-day kind of struggles and ask for opinions and help out, that I think is unique.
And the last one, what is the one like product or service that helps you be either productive or creative, depending how do you think about it? So what is the product or service helping you the most?
Yeah, I this is probably super cliched, and you probably got this answer a lot by now. But like, I started in Inbox Zero. I learned Inbox Zero and started being Inbox Zero, and I've been Inbox Zero since 2011, when Mailbox came out. This was the original app that invented the swipe to archive an email. And so today, for the past 3 years, I've been a heavy, heavy Superhuman user, and I can't imagine my life without it. And it's just key to my entire workflow. So there's here and there all kinds of other apps I'd like to mention, like Cron, which Notion acquired, but Cron is the way I calendar. It's a really good high quality calendar product, which is really missing after years of trying it out. And there's other ones, but I think really like my day-to-day go-to would be Superhuman email.
Amazing, amazing. So yeah, Nimrod, that's probably all for me. If you have anything you want to add or mention, yeah, please do so.
No, thank you so much for this. It was a delightful conversation, and yeah, good luck.
Thanks a lot for your time, and yeah, this was amazing. Yeah, wish you luck. Have a nice
Yeah.
day.
Thanks so much. Be in touch.
Um, okay.